This video is going to be a 10-minute crash course on reading and understanding construction payment applications using the standard AIA G702 and G703 format. If you would like a much longer version that includes a lot more detailed information, you can look at the other video on my page that's about an hour long and goes through everything in depth. But if you just need a refresher or just need to know really quickly what a construction payment application is, this is the video for you. So starting now, let's do 10 minutes of construction payment applications. So the first thing to look at is what is a payment application. So essentially the payment application is how a subcontractor or general contractor gets paid from the owner and lender on a project. So the first step is that your subcontractor is going to complete some work. So they're going to do 1 month worth of work, also called just 1 period worth of work. Then they're going to give a pay application to the general contractor. That general contractor is then going to take that subcontractor's pay application as well as all of the other pay applications from all of the other subcontractors and compile the master pay application. That one will also include their markup and any indirect costs, which we'll talk about in a second as well. And then they're going to submit that to the owner or lender. The owner or lender will then review the pay application and all of the subcontractor pay applications, ask any questions, and then approve the whole package. Once everything is approved, it will then get funded. So the funding will then go back to the general contractor, who will then pay the subcontractors. Now, something to note here is that this process typically takes about 60 days from the time that the subcontractor says, hey, I did work, please pay me, to the time that the general contractor says, here you go, here's your money, is about 60 days. So let's look at this in a little bit of a different way with some diagrams. So we've got 5 different subs on our job site. So we've got framing, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and concrete. They're all going to work for a month, hopefully. In this situation, you are the general contractor. So all of these subcontractors are going to give you their pay application. You are going to then review and approve or reject their pay applications, and you are going to add your costs onto that. So we've got the above the line costs, which are direct costs from the sub pay applications, the below the line indirect that you're going to add, which will also include your fee. So that's why you care about that. And then you've got a full pay application package that goes to the owner or lender. Obviously, a big part of that pay application is the pay applications themselves, but a note that the package usually includes additional backup that the owner or lender will request. That could include your schedule, it might include progress pictures. There's a lot of different things that could be requested that go into the full package. From there, your owner is going to review and approve it and send it to the lender. Your lender is then going to review and approve it, and they're going to fund the owner. Then the owner is going to fund you, and you are going to fund your subs, and you're going to keep your portion on the side to cover your costs and your fee. So now that you hopefully understand a little bit about what a pay application actually is, let's look at an example. So this right here is a subcontractor application for payment, and this sheet is called the G702. G702 is just a fancy way to say cover sheet. So this summarizes the entire rest of your subcontractor's pay application. Now note that you can have different formats for different companies, projects, lenders, things along that nature, but the bulk of the information needs to stay the same. So we've got up here, our owner is Next Lot Ventures, from our subcontractor, which is Nailed It Framing, our project name, application number, and this means what pay application number is coming from the framing subcontractor. So in our case, this is the 5th time that our subcontractor has asked for payment. Period 2 means what they're billing for. So this is until the 7/31/2024 close of billing. Now, since it is a month at a time, that means it's going from 7/1 to 7/34. You might have it go from 6/15 to 7/15. There's a lot of different options. That depends on your project. Now, the bulk of the information is right here. If there's anything you look at, it needs to be this box. So this is your summary of what the entire rest of this pay application is going to say. The first thing to look at here is line 1, original contract sum. So that is, what did you originally contract your subcontractor to? So this framing subcontractor said that they were going to frame your building for $1,234,000. Since then, you can see on line 2 that they have had $18,600 worth of change orders. That means their total contract sum is now $1,252,000. Of that amount, they have completed $806,000 worth of that work. And we'll get into the breakout of how that number comes about in just a second. The retention of that work, in our case, is only 5%. It is most common for it to be 10%, but my company only holds 5%, and that retention ensures that your subcontractor is not going to walk away from the project before the very end. So the general contractor will hold that retention until the project is 100% complete, then release it as a lump sum to the subcontractors. So in our case, 5% of the completed work is a total of $40,312, and that is the combination of these two numbers here. So that is 5% of your completed work and your stored material, which we'll talk about in a minute. If you look at the next line, you're going to see total earned minus retention. So in total, your subcontractor has completed $806,000 worth of work. You have held back $40,000. Therefore, they have earned $765,000. Line 7 is less previous certificate for payment. So this is showing how much of that $765,000 they've already been paid. So in our case, they've already been paid $646,000 worth. If you get the difference of the two, you'll see that they are currently due $119,000. With all that being said, the amount that this subcontractor still has left to finish plus the retention, so this is in total how much money this subcontractor is still owed, assuming they do everything they say they're going to, is $486,000. So that is everything you need to know about a G702 cover sheet. So now we're going to go into the G703. So your G703 is called a continuation sheet, or is called your schedule of values. It is all the same. Your schedule of values is basically this bulk of information saying how much your subcontractor is charging you for every individual thing they're going to do. Every single thing has a cost associated. So we're going to skip to the last page when we're looking at this, and we're going to go section by section. So your item number, just listed in order so it's easier to follow. Your cost code has to deal with your CSI division that you're talking about. If you don't know what a CSI division is, you can look that up on the side. Basically, is a cost code showing what subcontractor you're using. So 06 is always what's going to be used for a wood frame subcontractor. Then you get into your description of work. So that's also explanatory. You want this to be very broken down so that you can easily tell where your subcontractor is billing, what they have not billed for, where they're supposed to be getting their work done. Your scheduled value then tells you how much that work is worth. So essentially your subcontractor is telling you the building 3 prefab level 1 walls are worth $30,000 in total. The next column is any change orders for that work. And you'll notice that there's none on these lines because for subcontractors, they're typically added at the bottom. So we have 2 change orders for this subcontractor. So you'll see the original value is 0 plus change orders gets you a total. And so this third column here is just a total of the 2 previous. Then we get into work completed. So that is what have you already paid them for? So in previous periods, I've already paid them for $7,958 worth of work on the building 3 prefab of level 1. Now, this period, meaning this pay application, they are asking for an additional $19,885 worth of work for a total completed of $27,843 or 90%. So when you're reviewing a pay application, this is what you want to be looking at is this period, meaning what are they asking for this period, and your percentage complete to do a quick gut check. Do I owe them that money? Are they where they say they are? Another thing to look at is material presently stored. So stored material is exactly what it sounds like. It is material stored, but the key is it is stored off-site. If something is stored on-site, it is billed in this period. If it is stored off-site, it needs additional backup, typically pictures, a bill of sale, and a certificate of insurance. That way, if something is stored at a warehouse and the warehouse burns down, you are still insured, even though that material was not on your job site. Whether or not you are allowed to bill for stored material is going to depend on the subcontractor, the owner, and the lender. So that is something absolutely to watch. That typically this column will be completely empty, but wanted to put something in there so we could chat about it. Next, you've got your balance to finish. So it's a total that you've already completed minus what your total value is. And then your retention, which we already talked about at the beginning. If you go down here, you'll see that these numbers all match the numbers that were on the cover page. So your G703 is just a continuation, hence the term continuation sheet, of everything that is shown on your G702 cover page. And that's everything you need to know about the subcontractor pay app. So let's look at the owner pay application. So this is the general contractor's pay application. And if you look at this and go, wow, that looks almost identical, you would be right. The subcontractor pay application and the general contractor pay application are very similar. So I'm not going to go through all of these lines again, but the key difference is the general contractor's pay application shows every single subcontractor's pay application in one group. So instead of showing line by line, building 1, building 2, building 3, I've got a big lump sum for concrete, for rough carpentry, for plumbing, etc. Showing in total, my carpentry is going to cost $1,234,000. I've already done $680,000 of that work. Please pay me for $125,000 of that work. I've done a total of $806, and my carpentry is 64% complete. So all of the numbers from your subcontractor pay app are going to filter into your general contractor pay app. Then you're going to compile all of the subcontractor ones, put those in a nice little bow for the owner and say, here you go, owner. In total, you owe me for $406,000 worth of work. But what you owe me is $406,000 minus the 5% retention. So the actual amount that they owe you is $398,000, which can be seen over here. Now, a note that a couple of these columns columns are not standard to the AIA. So the previous budget here, retention this period, and current period funding are not typical to the AIA format. That is something my company has decided to add, and that's an example of ways that you can personalize these to your company, lender, or project, as long as you have the bulk of the information the same. Now you might be thinking, what is that giant red line going through this pay application? So the giant red line going through the pay application is what we call the line. So things that are above the line are our direct costs for the project, your concrete, carpentry, plumbing, things that are directly used to build the project and stay with the building permanently. Things that are not direct to the project and do not stay with the building are below the line. So that's something like your supervision for your general contractor. Technically, your general contractor does not build the building, they manage the people who do. So they are below the line for the supervision. So when you are submitting your pay application as the general contractor, this is where your portion goes before you give it to the owner. Also important are general requirements. These are things that are required to build a building, but not part of the building, such as your dumpsters, your trailer, your site fence. These are things that you have to have, but don't actually help the building in any way technically. Then we've got the boring stuff like insurance, because you need a lot of insurance. Then we've got contingency, which I'm not going to touch on, but you can Google on the side. Then we've got sales tax and fee, which will be calculated depending on where you are in the agreements that you've set with your owner. So if you look at all this, you'll see that all of these numbers down here tie in with all of these numbers on your cover sheet. So if all you need is quick information of how much am I owed, how many change orders have we had, where are we at in this project, this box right here gives you all of the information you need to know. Then this is where you get the details on all of that information. So just to recap a couple of the quick terms that we talked about, we've got your G702, which is the pay application cover sheet. So there's going to be a 702 on both the owner side and every single individual pay app. Then we've got the 703, which is a breakdown of the request. So the 703 for the owner shows the list of subcontractors. The 703 for the subcontractors shows their schedule of values, which is a broken out list of everything they're going to do on that project, every single thing's value. And then we've got direct costs, which are used to directly build the project, concrete, drywall, paint, steel. Those are above the line. Then we've got indirect costs, which are things that are required to build but are not permanent to the building, such as your dumpsters, porta-john, trailer, or side fence. And that is my 10 minutes. So as I mentioned at the beginning, there's a much longer video if you'd like a much more detailed explanation of everything. If you have any requests for the next video, let me know in the comments and I'll try not to go 6 years before making the next one. Thanks, guys.